right? This one's simple, right? Two premises leading to a conclusion, and you got the conclusion correct. That one's also a simple one. And then this one, the only thing we need to do is take off and since, because really the proposition is just that everything in the world does have a cause. Yeah. And since are just indicators. All right, I think this one is a little bit different, right? The world is a well-ordered place, and we can see this in so many ways. For example, the human brain is still far beyond our ability to understand. Even the simplest life forms are more complex than any technological device human beings have ever designed. And if the laws of physics were not finely tuned in just the way they are, life on Earth would be impossible. All right, so what was it? What kind was it? I'm not going to show yet. Do you remember? Is it linked? No, that means convergent, right? Yeah. So that's good. You did well on finding the little symbols there to type in there. Can't get the arrows to be like angled. That's kind of difficult, but we got you. That's convergent. Yeah. All these are independent reasons showing the well-ordered, the orderliness of the world. Right. Okay. And then what? Every well-ordered thing comes from an intelligent cause. Since we can see that the world is well-ordered, we know that the cause of the world is intelligent. Right? Linked? Perfect. This argument is either linked or convergent, so it must be linked because it's not convergent. Good. Okay, I'm glad you got this. This argument is either linked or convergent, so you knew that that was one proposition. Sometimes people might think, it's two, so they might say this argument is either linked and then put it on another line as a separate proposition, or it's convergent, or this argument is convergent, but that won't work. Remember, two propositions that are joined by the indicator and, right, can be separated as two separate propositions, but this one with the word or cannot be, yeah? So it could have said, this argument is linked or this argument is convergent. That looks like two propositions joined by or, but you cannot break them up because you changed the meaning, right? So you did correctly. I'm glad you got that. People always make that mistake, and you didn't, so that means you're well ahead of the average student here. Another one that I wanted to point out was before. Here we go. This one is important. If everything in the world has a cause, then the world as a whole has a cause, right? This looks like it has two different propositions because it really does. Everything in the world has a cause, and then the world as a whole has a cause. But when these two are joined by this if and then, right? By the if then there, they cannot be separated as separate propositions because that changes the whole meaning there. What we have here is one proposition that says, if this is true, then that will be true, right? Good. So if A, then B, and then 2 tells us A is the case, so then it follows that B is the case, right? Okay. And then we have the, right? Yeah, the or. All right. This one was a little bit more complicated. Cat species can cause toxoplasmosis. So if a pregnant woman touches a cat, she should wash her hands afterwards. She should not empty the litter box. Toxoplasmosis can damage her baby and can cause miscarriage. If a pregnant woman has a cat at home, she should do a blood test to check for immunity. Yes, that looks correct to me. Good job. So 1 plus 2 together are reasons for believing those three things, those three separate things. That's nice. Good job. All right. The death penalty is unfairly applied. Jury decisions on when to apply the death penalty are often unfairly influenced by race or money. Studies show that the juries are much more likely to apply the death penalty if the murder victim is white than if he or she is black. They also show that people who are wealthy enough to hire good lawyers are less likely to get the death penalty than people who are poor. Yep. Studies show that juries are much more likely to apply the death penalty if the murder victim is white than if he or she is black. They also show that people who are wealthy enough to hire good lawyers are less likely to get the death penalty than people who are poor. Yes, those two are reasons for believing that jury decisions on when to apply the death penalty are unfairly influenced by race or money. And that shows that the death penalty is unfairly applied. Good. This is well done. Okay. The Ibn Rushd here. That the law summons to reflection on beings and the pursuit of knowledge about them by the intellect is clear from several verses of the Book of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as the saying of the Exalted, reflect, you have vision. Another example is the saying, have they not studied the kingdom of the heavens and the earth and whatever things God has created? The Exalted also said, do they not observe the camels, how they have been created, and the sky, how it has been raised up? And he said, and they give thought to the creation of the heavens and the earth, so on, and countless other verses. So, right, the Quran says so. Yeah, so basically each premise is another verse of Quran. The Quran says this, the Quran says that, the Quran says something else, right? And all of them leading to the same thing, that the law summons to reflection on beings and the pursuit of knowledge about them, right? Good. Since it has now been established that the law has rendered obligatory the study of beings by the intellect and reflection on them, right? And that's the conclusion of the previous argument, right? And since reflection is nothing more than inference and drawing out of the unknown from the known, and since this is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning, therefore we are under an obligation to carry on our study of beings by intellectual reasoning. All right, 1 plus 2, he said. The law has rendered obligatory the study of beings by the intellect and reflection on them. Reflection is nothing more than inference and drawing out the unknown from the known. This is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning. Therefore, we are under an obligation to carry on our study of beings by intellectual reasoning. Okay, well, that's it. Okay, we got some mismatch here with the numbers, right? So 4 here is supposed to be 3?
Yeah, it's supposed to mean 3.
All right. And then 5 is supposed to be 4. Okay. So what we have here is, you're saying that 1 plus 2 leads to 3? Is that right? 1 plus 2 together is the reason for believing 3?
I'm assuming, yeah.
All right, so maybe it's going to be clearer for us if we make that proposition more clear. You said this is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning. What is this that he's talking about?
Wait, what? Let me read them. This is number 10?
Yeah.
Wait, what was your question? What is this?
Yeah, so the third premise there says this is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning. So this has to refer to something. What is this refer to?
The law that was rendered obligatory.
The law?
Yeah? No, wait. The
law rendered obligatory studying by the intellect, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And reflection on them.
Yes.
So the law rendered obligatory reflection. The law makes reflection wajib. Yeah? or fard, I guess. Mm-hmm. And reflection is inference,
Yes.
right? Reflection is
Inference and
inference. Mm-hmm. And then 3 says this is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning. So what is this?
the inference and the drawing out of.
Very good, right? Inference is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning. Okay. So now that we have that clear what it's saying, why do you think 1 plus 2 are supposed to be reasons for believing 3? Is there any reason why the fact that the law has rendered reflection obligatory a reason for believing that inference is reasoning? Is there any connection there? If somebody were to say, Allah made reflection fard, therefore inference is reasoning. Is there any logic to that? Or somebody says, the law makes reflection fard, or an obligation, and not only that, reflection is inference. Therefore, inference is reasoning. Do you see any logical connection?
Yeah.
What's the logical connection? Why should they be reasons for believing inference is reasoning? Can you explain?
I'm trying to explain it to myself. Wait.
Okay. So there's an arrow there, which means that you think that the combination of 1 plus 2 has some logical relation to 3, such that it gives us reason for believing that 3. But I don't see any real relevance there, actually. We have the law has rendered obligatory reflection. Yeah? So, put it like that then. The teacher said that there's a gift in the box. Yeah?
Okay.
So then let's say, okay, there's a gift in the box. Yeah. The gift is for you. Right?
Okay.
So premise 1 is there's a gift in the box. Premise 2 is the gift is for you. Then we could say, well, that what's in the box is for you. Yeah. But what if I were instead to say, what's in the box is a gift. The gift is for you. Therefore, what's for you is a pony. Yeah. There's no sense, right? Yeah. No. Because why should the fact that the gift is for you mean that it's a pony, right? And why should the fact that it's in the box give you reason to believe it's a pony? There's no connection. Yeah. Pony just comes in out of nowhere, right? It's not involved in the logic of the previous 2 statements at all. Here, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to show you an analogy, right? I mean, so the law has made reflection obligatory, and reflection is inference. How does that tell us that inference is reasoning? It doesn't, right?
It doesn't.
So, yeah. So we just have 3 separate things. So what you should actually have is 1 plus 2 plus 3 leads to 4. See what I mean? All right. So whenever you do that, really ask yourself, okay, for when I put the arrow, I'm actually saying that, there's that what's before the arrow is a reason to believe what's after the arrow. Yeah? And you have to ask whether that is the reason to believe or not. And if it is, why, right? Okay. Oh, that's it. That's all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got them all right except for that last one.
Yeah, but
So
I still think I still think they're pretty challenging.
All right. Well, let's go on to the ones that you didn't do.
And how will the midterm look like?
Like this stuff. It's this stuff, basically. Exactly this, in fact. Because everything that we've learned up until now sort of accumulates to this process, right? Because in this process, the process of these exercises, you have to read the passage, right? Isolate the propositions, right? That's part of analyzing and formalizing the argument. and then diagramming it and seeing the logical relation. So everything, combines into this sort of skill. So if the exercises are harder than the midterm, then you'll study hard and you'll get, good. And, the midterm might be easier. So, right? But it's better to leave that sort of, up in the air. Yeah. So you try your best to try the most sophisticated ones. And you don't know how hard the midterm is going to be till you get to it.
Yeah.
Right? But I can tell you here that you did 10 of these and you got 9 out of 10 right. So that's pretty damn good. Right? And so I think you're a person who has a high potential to, develop your critical thinking skills pretty strongly. So you might as well try, to continue. And that means doing the ones that are even harder than the ones that you've done before, right? So how about this one? The greatest achievement in the opinion of man is eternal happiness, and the most excellent thing is the way that leads to it. This happiness will never be attained except through knowledge and works are impossible without the knowledge of how they are done. The basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. Of all works, it is therefore the most excellent. Right, so what do you think the conclusion is here?
Okay, I read this so many times last night, and this is when I decided to give up. I think there are more than one conclusion.
Okay, so it's a complex argument, right?
There is, let's see, let me read it one more time. Okay, the basis of happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. I also think is the greatest achievement in the opinion of man is eternal happiness. Is that also a conclusion?
If it's a conclusion, what is the reason that's given for believing it?
No, it wouldn't be that. It would be like the most excellent thing is what leads to eternal happiness.
All right. If that's a conclusion, what's the reason given for that?
Okay, that would be the greatest achievement in the opinion of man is eternal happiness. That would be the reason, wouldn't it?
Okay, so because of the fact that the greatest achievement in the opinion of man is eternal happiness, then it follows from that the most excellent thing is the way that leads to it. Yeah, that sounds like it would work. I think so. So it seems to me that you would draw an arrow between those two. So if you have as a first proposition, let's say proposition 1, the greatest achievement in the opinion of man is eternal happiness. Proposition 2, the most excellent thing is the way that leads to it. And you would draw an arrow between 1 and 2. And yeah, that doesn't make reasonable sense, because really if eternal happiness is the greatest achievement, then it makes sense that whatever leads to that greatest achievement will be the most excellent thing. Right? So that means that we have a logical relation between these two propositions. Whether that's the complete total conclusion or not, I'm not sure. But it is a conclusion that we infer from. So 2 is a conclusion we infer from 1. Yeah? Where
the ultimate conclusion would probably be, of all works, it is therefore the most excellent, which is.
That seems likely to me, because therefore means it's a conclusion, right? Yeah. it is knowledge, right?
Knowledge.
So,
Knowledge.
right. So we basically have knowledge is the most excellent of all works.
Uh-huh.
And we have a therefore. So that tells us that a reason has just been given, right? Therefore, it tells us this is the conclusion from a previously given reason or a previously stated reason. And what was stated before that is that the basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. We had previously said, right, that the most excellent thing is the way that leads to eternal happiness. Right?
Right.
Now we're saying that the basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. And then therefore it's the most excellent. Yeah, so look at the second sentence. This happiness will never be attained except through knowledge and works. So the greatest achievement is eternal happiness, right? The most excellent thing is what leads to happiness, right? Happiness will never be attained except through knowledge and works. So knowledge and works is the only thing that leads to happiness. Therefore, what's the most excellent thing?
Knowledge.
Yeah. And works, well, because works are impossible without knowledge. Yeah. So it's like knowledge and works are what leads to happiness. But we couldn't have works without knowledge, so knowledge is the one that's necessary, actually, right? Yeah. And therefore, yeah, that's going to be the thing that leads to happiness. That is the most excellent thing, right? According to, it said, the most excellent thing is the way that leads to eternal happiness. Yeah. And then it's actually explicit. What's implicit in all the he says it. The basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. Okay, what about that? The basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. Why does that's also a conclusion, right?
Yeah, that should count as a conclusion.
And where does it come from?
The basis for happiness in this world and the next is knowledge. Okay, that would be that happiness will not be attained except through knowledge and works. And works are impossible without the knowledge of how they are done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have, our midterm is not until Thursday next week. So we have a couple of days. We have quite a bit of time to work on this, right?
Okay, yeah.
Did you actually formalize this first and break down the propositions and list them?
Yeah.
Okay. If you do that, and if you actually list them as complete propositions, it's going to make it easier for you to see what's going on here. Yeah? I want you to notice the one that you got wrong last time. Yeah? Let's go back to it. Yeah. There we go. So, notice the one that you made the mistake in. The one with Ibn Rushd, right? Notice that here you thought that 3 follows from 1 and 2. But then when we actually thought about, what it's saying, we realized that 3 doesn't follow from 1 and 2, right? It's that 4 follows from 1 plus 2 plus 3. But notice that you kind of left that kind of vague, right? This is reasoning, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And when you have the proposition stated in a way which leaves it vague, right? I can't really know what it's saying when it just says this is reasoning, or at any rate done by reasoning, because it's like, what is this? Yeah, what is this? The question that raises is, what is the subject? Well, if you say the subject is this, that doesn't really give you any understanding of what the proposition is saying, right? Because this has no meaning apart from what it refers to. So that's why it was better to fill that in. Inference, right, is what it's talking about, right? Inference is reasoning. So now when you realize, okay, it's saying inference is reasoning, you can actually get a better a handle on whether there's a logical relation between that and the previous two premises. And you see that there's not, because, there's no reason that they would, they don't give reason to believe that inference is reasoning, right? So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. One of the keys here, and that's why we had this sort of, careful exercise of identifying the propositions and stating them clearly. It's because when you have them in your mind clearly, you can more clearly see what the logical relation is between them. Yeah, that's going to be definitely the case here, right? Yeah. So you got 5 more that are, like more challenging in different ways. Some of them have a lot more premises, right? But they have maybe a simple structure. Others have a complex structure. This one has a pretty complex linked structure. I think you can already tell, but I think you can get some clarity on what it is if you make sure when you list out the propositions and formalize it, every proposition is understandable and intelligible as you write it out as a complete proposition, and then it'll be in your mind as a clear, intelligible proposition, and you'll be able to see what's going on there.